Chapter 3 Time for School. In 1995, before my mom and I traveled to South Asia, I remember being so excited for all the new experiences ahead, the new places we would see, and the new people we would meet. I read every book I could find by Gita Mehta about life in India throughout the 20th century, the 1900s. I read encyclopedia entries and old National Geographic articles on the countries and historical sites we would visit. By the time we left for our trip, I was so excited even though I still wasn't quite sure what to expect. I know there was at least one thing I wasn't expecting: seeing lots and lots of kids not in school. Children sitting in slums, hustling on corners, begging on roads, hanging out under trees and working, farming, cooking, carrying, cleaning, and everywhere, from cities to rural communities, not in school. I knew some schools were not as good as others in the US, and I'd heard conversations on the news and at our family dinner table about improving education across our country. But until I went to South Asia, I had no idea that at that time, over 100 million kids weren't in school, either because there were no schools for them to go to, or no teachers to teach them, or because they had to work on farms, in open air stores, or as beggars on the street. Some of the kids I saw working weren't even old enough to be in elementary school. I didn't know that in many places around the world, in the late 20th century, and even still today, 20 years later, kids didn't have schools to go to, teachers to teach them, desks to sit at, books to learn from, and safe places to play before or after school. Many don't even have the hope of ever going to school. I didn't know how many kids had to work in a job every day instead of worrying about science class or math homework. That many kids didn't know how to read or add or subtract and weren't routinely asked, as I was by my parents and teachers, what I wanted to be when I grew up or what I'd learned in school that day. I was embarrassed I hadn't known or understood how lucky I was to have a school to go to and to have great teachers. I've had terrific teachers throughout my life, from Mrs. Miner, who taught my kindergarten class at Hall High School. Yes, as bizarre as it sounds, I went to kindergarten in a high school. Through Dr. Niger Woods, my graduate advisor at Oxford University. Millions of kids and young people aren't so fortunate. More so than anything else discussed in this book, education is an area where I think adults should really listen to kids. After all, you're the ones who are being educated. And you're thinking about education all the time, since you spent so much time in school. So you have valuable ideas and thoughts about it. I hope you'll speak up and speak out about what you think education should mean at your school. You also have great ideas about how every kid around the world should have a chance to learn and discover, and I hope you'll share those too. This chapter focuses on education outside the US and other wealthy countries. Why? Well, because in the US, every kid has a guaranteed right to a free public education from kindergarten through high school. That's pretty standard in wealthier countries, but it's still not common in developing countries. A quick note on what can be confusing language. Elementary school is usually called primary school outside the US, so that's the language I'll use. Around the world, many different words are used to describe the type of school that kids go to after primary school, or once they're around 12 years old. Middle school, high school, and junior high school are just a few such names we use in the US, and it can be confusing, even in our own lives. For 8th grade, I started off at Horseman Junior High School in Little Rock and finished at Sidwell Friends Middle School in Washington, D.C. Around the world, secondary school is the most common name for what comes after primary school, so that's what you'll see throughout this chapter. I'll try to avoid confusion because the crisis could not be more clear. Millions of children are still not in school, and millions more do not receive a quality education. Why is it so important that everyone, everywhere, can go to school? You may think it's obvious why, but for lots of people around the world, it's not so obvious. Education helps each of us define and then pursue our dreams, whether we want to be doctors or teachers, architects or activists, whether we want to work on a farm, in a store, in an office, whether we want to help invent the next cool technology or drive a race car. It's hard to imagine what we want to be when we grow up if we don't even know what exists. It's also hard to imagine ourselves as being astronauts or running businesses if we don't know what skills we'll need to do those jobs or can't go to school to learn them. Schools fill us with the knowledge to help us dream big and then to follow those dreams throughout our lives. Education also helps fight poverty in very real ways. According to the United Nations, UN, an organization that includes representatives from nearly every country in the world, if every child in low-income countries learned to read, just learned to read, more than 170 million people would be better able to support themselves as adults and move out of poverty. In low-income developing countries, every additional year of school young people receive increases their future income by a lot. So if many more kids go to even one more year of school, that's good for them and their countries. When they grow up, those kids will earn more money, helping them move out of poverty. They'll also have more money to spend and invest, which over time will help their countries do the same. Better education helps people lead healthier, longer lives. If people know more about what keeps them healthy, they're more likely to do those things. A daughter or a son born in the developing world to a mother who knows how to read is significantly more likely to live past 5 years old, partly because her mother knows more about how to keep her healthy, and partly because her mother is more likely to work and then have more resources to be able to take care of her. Civic education, or learning how government works, what it does, how voting works, helps kids be more involved citizens now, through writing to calling or emailing their mayors or members of Congress, and later in life by voting, possibly even running for office, and still writing to their mayors or members of Congress. Learning how to think about an issue, like education or climate change, also helps each of us make arguments about what we think the right answers are to big questions and articulate why we believe what we do. The best education also makes life more interesting as we learn about music, the arts, and cultures different from our own. Imagine if you had to rely on someone else to always tell you what was happening in your school or your community, and you couldn't make up your own mind about how your teachers, your mayor, or our president and Congress are doing their jobs. Imagine if you never heard music or never had a chance to draw or paint. It's hard to imagine that Mark Zuckerberg could have created Facebook without a computer science class. Just think about what would be possible if all kids, everywhere, who were interested in technology had the chance to explore their passions and could invent whatever they dreamed up. We'll all be better off when any kid, anywhere, can imagine the unimaginable. It's how we'll solve climate change, cancer, homelessness, and hunger. All the things I talk about in the book and more. It's how we'll have the best music to listen to, movies to watch, and art to appreciate, whether it's outdoors, online, or in a museum. But for all that to happen, we need to get kids in school.